So you mentioned China. China feel like Taiwan is theirs. Taiwan is this little island off the coast of China. I hear about this plan that they say China has, which is the 2049 plan. What is China's 2049 plan?
Well, part of that was based around a timeline for however you want to refer to it, the reunification, the absorption of Taiwan, the taking over of Taiwan. Nobody really knows what that will look like because there's a concern, is it going to be a completely kinetic, is it going to be a military operation? Is it going to be more of a soft takeover? Sort of like, it's a good example right here, Hong Kong. You remember there used to be democracy in Hong Kong, and now there's not. That happened over a period of time, but they basically just squashed all remnants of democracy, particularly during the pandemic. So what's it going to look like when they do take over Taiwan? That's the big question. But the timeline has shrunk. So there's some feeling that the movement on Taiwan will be during the course of Xi Jinping's tenure, right? So what are you looking at? Well, that depends on his grip on power, which seems very solid. It seems like it depends on his health, which, again, I'd be speculating. But so I don't see him riding off into the sunset willingly without finishing that project that in his mind is so important. He's consolidated power in China like nobody since Deng Xiaoping or Mao Zedong. So I think he's serious. Again, take certain leaders at their word. Some bluster a lot. Some make very big pronouncements. Donald Trump would be one of them who tends to just speak off the cuff and throw things out. I think the danger sometimes is the Democrats, for example, take him at his word, right, for everything he says, right? They take everything he says literally. But there are other leaders, Putin, Xi Jinping. I think you need to pay real close attention to exactly what they're saying. So I think when he talks about absorbing Taiwan and making it part of the motherland again, he's not kidding around.
Why does he want Taiwan? It looks like such an insignificant part of that part of the map. It's so small in comparison to China.
It's a good point. When you look at the map, you go, do you really need to bother? Yeah. You know what? It's part of it is the history, right? Ever since the Chiang Kai-shek and the separatists and the escaping to Taiwan and raising it as a separate nation, it's just it's hard to explain, but it's a very emotive subject, right?
Why does the U.S. care so much about Taiwan?
That's a better question too. Okay, part of that is I don't want to say emotional, but it's the idea of, look, they're democratic institutions. It's an ally. How could we possibly stand by and watch a communist regime, step on it and destroy it? Part of it is practical. It's like, it's an important chip manufacturing center. Yeah. So, there's a couple elements to it. Honestly, look, if all the chip manufacturing on Taiwan was reshored over to California somewhere, would we care quite as much? Well, we would still care on that sort of emotional, values-based side. But we could probably overlook it in the long run. Now, are we going to send boots on the ground over to defend Taiwan if there's a military action? Going back to, are you a betting person? I would bet no matter who's in office.
But they all say they're going to defend Taiwan. All of the U.S. presidents are always asked, would you defend Taiwan if Russia invaded? And you'll probably know some of the quotes better than I do, but they've all said that they would.
Yeah. The only slip up at one point was Biden, where I don't think he really meant to say what he said, which was sort of ambiguous towards the defense of Taiwan, but then he corrected it. So do I honestly think that we would send troops over? No, I don't. Do I think that we would do what we're doing with Ukraine? Sure. Yeah. Would we provide resources? But this is a much different situation, right? And so I think while I get the concept, I just don't know that there's be follow through, because that is a very tough sell to explain why we're sending troops over to face down the Chinese military, which is about a stone's throw away from Taiwan. And look, this is going to be an interesting situation, right? Because the folks over here, the folks in China, they don't view the folks in Taiwan as Taiwanese. They view them as Chinese, right? So are you going to have, Chinese military shooting Chinese? I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a softer takeover. Maybe there's more influence. There's a massive disinformation campaigns that go on Taiwan, courtesy of the Chinese regime. There's all sorts of efforts there to undermine Taiwanese leadership. But this is, again, the point being is this is a crisis. Look, this is a mess and has been, and it's underway, and it's hopefully resettled in Ukraine situation. But over here, this is looming, right, as a major issue. And if you think about their other activities, this is what's referred to as the South China Sea, right?
Which is below Taiwan. It
is, yes. And this is the Philippines here, Vietnam over here. China has always viewed this as their territory, right? This is their backyard. Well, ever since World War II, the U.S. has essentially patrolled and maintained security in the South China Sea, right, in the interests of international free trade and freedom of movement. There are increasing numbers of encounters between the Chinese Navy and the Philippines, Vietnamese over this sea, because again, they view this as theirs. They're constantly in here pushing. They're building artificial islands for ports. There's a major flashpoint here, right, for potential conflict. And China, I've talked to a number of experts that I really value, and their take is, and I think it's not incorrect, is that China is basically on a war footing with the West already, right? We just don't see it, or we don't feel it, or we don't want to acknowledge it. And I don't mean like they're going to launch missiles, but in their minds, they're at war with the U.S. already, and they're acting in a sense as if that's the case, and we act as if, well, they're just an economic competitor, but it would be nice if we could all get along. So I think we may be misreading the tea leaves.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.